everybody. This is Wellness Wednesday, and as Sarah posted, we've been having some technical difficulties, so we're going to just do me in video and post it at 1 o'clock. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Know that we all have you in our minds and are looking forward to, I'm looking forward to seeing you again as everybody else is here, but right now we're doing the best we can. So we're bringing you Wellness Wednesdays, and just to recap a little bit from last week, I was bringing the idea of my little wedge wheel here, talking about the whole idea of self-care. I'm looking at my wedges are typically the lifestyle, you know, I crossed out style because it's life and emotion. So that's my wedge. So today I thought, well, let's talk a little bit about self-esteem. And I'm using some handouts here because it helps me keep organized. I'm not trying to be disconnected from you all, but it's just easier for me to be organized this way. And because I'm not very technologically savvy, this is new for me. We know low self-esteem affects every aspect of a person's life. It can impact every aspect of a person's life. So I thought I would present some things about how to address that, how to maybe begin to build that. And one of the things that we know, there's a therapy type of concept called cognitive behavioral therapy that I use in my sessions a lot, that applies to anxiety and eating and a lot of things, but also self-esteem. And the whole idea is that we have thought patterns that impact how we interpret a situation or ourselves, and those thought patterns then in turn impact how we feel. And those thought patterns oftentimes are distorted or irrational. And I'm not saying they aren't real, because they are real, because they are a lot of times based on how we were brought up or life experiences. So we have these patterns that get ingrained that are just distorted and not very realistic. So the idea is, if you're looking at, okay, what can I do about self-esteem? One of the things that might be good is just kind of try to identify what those areas are that tend to impact your self-esteem, or that you tend to do to maybe devalue yourself, that deflate your self-esteem. Is it work? Is it a situation at home? A challenge situation in a relationship? A role that you're playing now that's new or difficult? And then pay attention to what you might be saying about that. And I'll help you figure out what you might be saying. That's a sort of layer, but the idea is figure out what is it you're saying to yourself about those situations, and how might they be irrational. And one of the things that's hard to do is figure out, what are you saying that's irrational? Is it irrational? Is it based on fact? And one of the simplest ways to figure that out is just ask yourself, would you be saying the same thing to a friend? Because you treat your friends differently than oftentimes we treat ourselves. So that's one thing you might want to ask yourself. And I use this example a lot, especially with people that are working with their weight loss journey here, is these irrational thoughts really do play havoc with your weight loss journey. People are working really hard here to lose weight and change their patterns of with their food and relationships, and they're going along really well, and then for whatever reason, they eat a cookie. Their brain takes over, and their brain tells them they are such a horrible person. They have failed. They might as well eat the whole bag. It was one cookie, and the brain is taking over and turns it into a whole bag. So that's my cookie example. So examples of irrational or distorted thoughts are people that do this all or none thinking. It's like there's one way to do it, there's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. And that's called black and white thinking, all or none thinking. And there really is a lot of gray in this world. So if you're that kind of thinker, it can be difficult. And it's like the thought is, well, if I don't succeed in this task, I'm a total failure. People do what's called mental filtering, and they just see one negative event and they just dwell on that, not looking at anything else. They make one mistake on a report. Well, everybody must realize that I am just not up for this job. People will convert positives into negatives. Their achievements really don't count. The only reason I did well on this test because it was easy, as an example. People jump to conclusions, just really thinking that people are reacting negatively to them when there's really no evidence to that. My friend hasn't replied to an email. I must have done something bad, or to make him angry. So the other thing is, this one's a little trickier, but kind of mistaking feelings for facts. It's also called emotional reasoning. But if you make a mistake, you feel like an idiot. Therefore, I am an idiot because you feel that way. So, and then of course, just the negative self-talk, just putting yourself down. So those are examples of how we might get caught up in negative self-talk. And I tell people, I'm just trying to get people to start recognizing what they're doing. And oh, I don't have my Rubik's Cube. I usually use my Rubik's Cube example here, but you know what a Rubik's Cube is. It looks like there's a pattern on one side. I'm just trying to get people to tip it one direction. The pattern is different. Everything is still there, but when you tip it, the pattern looks a little different. I think that's all I'm trying to get people to do, is start looking at things a little differently. So what you might try is use more hopeful statements. You know, telling yourself, I can do, instead of I can't. Looking at what you can do. Even though it's a tough situation, maybe I can do this. Forgiving yourself, admitting to you that you have mistakes. Mistakes are human. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Don't rake yourself over the coals. And then avoiding the shoulds. Those shoulds can set yourself up for unrealistic expectations of yourself and others. And so I think that maybe watching those shoulds so that you don't set yourself for those expectations. And again, just things like focusing on positives instead of negatives. This one I like is consider what you learned. I use this a lot when people do go outside their weight loss lane. Going outside the lane to me is not the issue. It's, okay, what happened and what do you learn from that experience? So I think that if you look at it as a learning opportunity, that's helpful. And again, just looking at what you can control versus what you can't control, kind of relabeling those upsetting thoughts and looking at, okay, what is it that I can control? And just encouraging yourself, being kind to yourself. I'm not perfect, but I did do this well. Just giving yourself a little bit of a break. I think that doing this kind of thinking takes a lot of practice, because first you have to figure out what it is you're saying, then maybe figure out how are you feeling, and then figuring out, okay, what am I saying? What can I say differently? So it does take practice. It's not something that happens overnight. I've been teaching this for like 35 years, so it's a lot easier for me to figure out what am I saying that's distorted when I'm ramped up, because your body's going to tell you when you're ramped up if you're paying attention to it. Then, okay, what am I saying to myself that's getting me ramped up? What can I say differently? It takes practice. So that's what I'm encouraged to do. And sometimes you have to write it out. And again, you know me, I talk about writing as a tool to kind of help people figure things out and work it out. I can tell you how to get insight. I can't give you the insight. So those are some thoughts about using your brain to help with that. Then it goes back to this whole self-care thing. Other things to increase self-esteem is just doing better self-care, taking care of your body, whether it's sleep, nutrition, movement, it's balance. Don't forget to do things that give you joy in life. There it goes, getting yourself up off the bottom, making yourself more of a priority. And just be sure to spend time with people that, I don't want to say bring you joy, but that you get something from, and it isn't always taking. I think that it has to be a give and take, and so kind of be with people that give you joy and you get something from, not always maybe giving. So anyway, those are some ideas about kind of how to improve self-esteem, and then also about how self-esteem is impacting maybe all these, can impact areas of life and things that you might want to try to do differently. And as always, you can always ask questions. Give me a call. We're available. We're still supporting you in your weight loss journey, even though we're not in person. Thank you very much.